We believe AI is unlike any technology we've seen before. It doesn't automate tasks, it learns, it improves, it scales in ways that are fundamentally different from the tools of previous industrial revolutions.
A lot of these trends, you all may have heard that half of all white-collar entry-level jobs could be wiped out in the next 5 years. At Anthropic, 100% of coding is done by Claude. When we surveyed our employees just 5 months ago in August, it was somewhere between 40 and 60%.
Worker anxiety is through the roof. One of the things that we're learning, and I think the world is seeing, is that the ROI on these implementations is not where people would have expected it to be.
We should be open to the possibility that this is really going to be fundamentally different, that our past economic regularities, that we lose some jobs, we always create new ones, and the new ones are always better than the old ones, may no longer be true if we have AI that becomes a really good substitute for human workers.
Work is as much about the worker as it is about the work product. Work is one of the principal means by which man serves and loves and receives love and receives service. Any approach to AI and work that proposes to replace that ignores that interdependence dimension is ultimately bankrupt.
The things that are happening with youth today are going to show up in the workforce 10 years from now. And so we need to understand what those things are. When youth are developing their relational skills, are interacting with a system that is constantly providing positive feedback, that is constantly saying, you're good, you're great. What does that do then for their ability to develop social relationships?
The tools these kids are using at home have that sycophant quality to it. So at this moment where identity formation is happening, what does it mean if what you're forming your identity with is just giving you flattery and just being a mirror and not pushing you? What does that mean? And I think we're underestimating what that's going to do.
This is the first revolutionary technology that has its roots almost entirely in the private sector. The U.S. government needed to, if it was going to make policy to resolve some of the dilemmas we've been talking about here, it needed to understand where the technology was going and not be entirely reactive.
Are we in the 1920s about to have a boom time, or are we in the early 1970s, and are we about to sort of regulate ourselves into oblivion? And I really don't know the answer to that question. I think the dice are indeed in the air.
China just got started, and they're behind us in the rearview mirror. Everyone has been in a car on the highway when you're cruising along at 60 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you see that car approaching real fast in the rearview mirror, and then it blows by you. That is in the process of happening to us.
The trust in tech ecosystem has been eroding, the trust in government has been eroding, and meanwhile we're sitting there and saying, we both have to trust in government right now and trust in our ecosystem. And I was very stuck on that coming into Ashby of last year until I met the great Gillian Hadfield.
We don't have, as a collective, all of us deciding, well, what is the appropriate level of risk that a chatbot might talk to a kid about committing suicide? That seems like a decision that should be collectively made through institutions. But we have the technical deficit that government doesn't feel in a position, and they're not wrong, to write a bunch of rules.
If you buy a power bank, from Anker or one of these companies, for your laptop, it will probably be certified to follow certain standards from Underwriters Laboratory. Is AI not actually more risky than batteries? I would disagree with that.
You need to create market opportunities for people to do well by figuring out the solutions to those questions.
There's a default path that might happen here. It may look like a patchwork of regulation that's a bit inconsistent, or maybe people left to navigate this transformation on their own. And we refuse that to be the inevitable path. We do have the expertise, the authority, and the willingness to not just have the conversations in here today, but to take those conversations out into the world, into action.